Great day. Happy Monday. I am Precious from the Collective Health Initiative, and I am here today with Dr. Yu and Ketnu, and we're talking today about bitters. Bitters, what are they good for? You eat these things because your parents tell you to, and as adults, you realize you're supposed to eat them, but exactly why are bitters important? Dr. Yu, can you tell us about bitters and give me an idea? Why is this important?
All right, well, peace, everyone. I'm Dr. Yu. I'm an herbalist, holistic wellness consultant. And, before I even get into that, I think it's important to talk about a little bit about what bitters are. Because we can hear that sometimes, and I'll have people ask me often, like, what do you mean by bitters? What are bitters? You know, if I say bitter foods and bitter vegetables, sometimes people don't know what that means. So when we talk about bitters, bitter is a type of taste, just like how sweet is or sour is or salty is. But the taste bitter usually registers like on the back of the tongue, and many people find it unpleasant. It's something that sometimes can linger depending on the intensity of how bitter something is. And most of the things that we eat are not bitter tasting. And so, what a lot of people may not realize is that all of the different types of taste are important because they all set off different functions of the body. And so when we eat something sweet, that has a function that a lot of times it triggers the brain to feel good and triggers energy release and things of that nature. If we were to eat something salty, that triggers something in the body. We eat something sour, that triggers something in the body, right? Bitter things start to trigger the digestive process. And they also can be good for helping to stimulate the heart. They can also be good to help to calm the nerves. So these are a few different attributes. We can talk a little bit more about it. And I just want to give some examples of some bitter foods for those who may not understand what type of foods may be bitter. Some things that come to mind that may be more common are things like mustard greens, turnip greens. Some people consider kale and collard greens lightly bitter. Grapefruit is a very common one. Grapefruit, lime, like that little taste that lingers in the back of your tongue when you eat like a grapefruit or a lime or grapefruit juice or something like that. That's the bitter taste register. Things that might be, some people may eat that might not be as common might be things like dandelion greens. Some of the salad greens like escarole or radicchio or those kind of or certain lettuces, those type of things like that. Ketner, you have anything you want to add?
I think you're doing a great job. Greeting everyone. My name is Ket Nefer, and I am the owner of a Soulful Touch Wellness, and I'm a women's holistic health coach. And just to veggie back off of what Dr. Yu was saying, um, we don't eat a lot of foods that have bitters because we have been accustomed to eat a lot of sugary things, a lot of salty things, and a lot of our foods today are so processed that we've gotten away from a lot of the bitter foods, um, many of those that Dr. You just mentioned. And so incorporating that, especially for women, because if you are someone who is dealing with things like PCOS or heavy menstrual cramping or a lot of bloating when you eat, digesting bitters are a great and natural way and affordable way to alleviate some of those symptoms that may occur during those things. And some of them are so simple that we've overlooked them over time. And I know throughout this talk, we're going to talk about how much and how different the different herbs that we could use in different foods more specifically, but one of the easier ways to do it, because I know that's something I know Precious is probably going to ask that. How can we get them, and what can they be used in? Um, One of my favorite ways of using bitters is through tinctures. And so, and I know Dr. Yu is going to talk some about that as well. But, just using simple things. I know a lot of people think that we need to do all these fancy and expensive things, but incorporating foods first and foremost are the first things. But if we're talking about supplements and stuff like that, let's talk about the tinctures and different herbs that we could utilize for that. So, I'm gonna defer it back to Dr. Yu because I know he has an expansive list of herbs, and I could, add in my perspective on that.
Okay. Well, I'll mention a few. I don't want to go too off the deep end because there's plenty of herbs that have bitter taste. Matter of fact, that's one of the things that a lot of people are concerned about when they get the herbal teas and stuff. They're like, "Is it bitter taste?" It's like not everything is bitter, but some of the ones that may be bitter include neem leaves. You have um, gentian root. You have one that's called Cascara Sagrada, which is more like a laxative type of an herb. You have, let's see, you have bitter melon, or some people also call it cerasee in the islands. These are things that come to mind off the top of my head. You also have, let's say, yellow dock. Yellow dock root is another one that's very bitter tasting that gives some of these attributes as well. And the last one that I'll mention off the top of my head is one that is commonly used, or two actually, that are commonly used by women, which are black cohosh or blue cohosh. Both of those can also have that type of an effect as well. I also want to say I saw Nana Atta is tuning in. So peace, Sister Atta. Thank you for tuning in and joining us today.
Yeah.
So those are some herbs that are available through tinctures and bitter preparations. Don't just have to be in tinctures, but tinctures are probably one of the quickest and easiest ways if you have them because they're already prepared. You don't have to take a large amount of them. And tinctures are usually they come either in alcohol or they come in what's called vegetable glycerin, and that kind of helps to modify the intensity of the bitter taste, so it's not so super strong where it's going to make you scrunch up your face and you got to take a whole lot of it, like with the herbal teas. But with bitter herbs, you can also get them in capsules. You can also get them in. You can also make them into herbal teas as well. And the good thing, even about the herbal teas, is you really don't need a whole lot at a time. Usually, from a traditional standpoint, bitter herbs, if they're made into herbal teas, they're usually taken at mouthful doses at a time. So it's not like you're going to drink like a whole quart or pint at a time. You're just going to take like about a good mouthful,
Right.
and that taste starts to register in the body and starts to give some of those results that were mentioned a little bit earlier.
Yeah. And with the tinctures, and I have one here that I take daily, and this is from Earthly Wellness, and this is their liver love tincture, and it has turmeric root, missile, milk thistle seed, dandelion root, peppermint leaf, black pepper. It is alcohol based, and it also has filtered water. And with tinctures, especially a tincture like this one, you want to take a dropper full, because I know this is probably a question that people have, like, how do I take it? And it depends. If it's for children, they recommend from 2 to 6 years old, 5 to 10 drops. Kids 7 to 12 years old, 10 to 20 drops, and for adults 13 plus, um, 30 to 40 drops a day, which would probably be a dropper full. So As you can see, I don't have much left in this because I actually take this all the time. But you want to get a dropper full of this, and you want to place it on the tongue, and you want it to sit on the tongue and until you start to salivate, because that's activating those bitter sensors on the tongue. And when you start to salivate, it's actually activating your digestive system, and then you are going to swallow it. The I try to take this at least 2 to 3 times a day because I am utilizing it to help build up my immune system. And that's one of the other effects of bitters, is to help to bolster up your immune system, as well as helping regulate bowel movements. Many people
Mhm.
don't know about that with the bitter herbs, and that's part of the reason, as Sister Precious mentioned earlier, like when your grandparents and your parents would, back in the day, I'm aging myself because I'll be 50 next year, but before we went to school, we would have to take some bitters to help deworm and help bolster your immune system so you wouldn't get colds and things like that, so you wouldn't stay out of school. Um, but it just helped to bolster up your health. So, um, tinctures, like Dr. You said, are a great form to utilize taking the bitters. And once you start taking it regularly, it doesn't become as bitter because your body starts to acclimate to the bitter taste. And because, like I said earlier, we are so used to ingesting sweet and salty and other savory foods, those are the prominent taste buds that we use in our mouth, and our bitter sensors are less utilized. So when you do take something bitter, that's why it tends to be so intense for you, because those taste buds are underutilized. So just wanted to show you how to take a tincture. And you can get them pretty much anywhere. There's some really great companies that have um, great herbal blends already, or you could take the singular herbs, some of the herbs that Dr. You mentioned earlier. And with gentian root, I will say that's probably one of the most bitter herbs
Mhm.
that you can take. So if you're hardcore and you like, hey, I can take the bitter, I would highly suggest that you do some gentian root. But also utilize these before a meal or after a meal, because that's going to help your digestive system um, internalize your food better, metabolize your food better. And that's one of the key things about taking bitters as well, is to help your digestive system work at its maximum best. So either, 10 to 20 minutes before a meal or immediately after a meal to get your digestive system pumped up. And I wanted to mention a couple of herbs that Dr. You didn't mention. And one of them is one that probably people didn't think was actually a bitter herb, but it's chamomile. And chamomile is really good. Most people think of chamomile as a relaxant and it helps you to go to sleep. And it does do that, but it also has the property to help your digestive system. And I normally recommend this to my clients who may be dealing with digestive upset. So, like if you have upset stomach, a little bit of nausea, chamomile is a great herb to use for that, as well as artichoke. And most people don't think about that, but artichoke is another great bitter herb, and most people know it as a food, and it's a bitter tasting food. So that's why it's really great to ingest as well. And something that you easily add into your diet if you're not already using it. And another one is Shishandra, which is a traditional Chinese herb, but I feel like it's underutilized because we don't use it as often, but it gives a gentle detox of the liver. So that's why I like to use it, because for those who are just getting into detoxifying their body and especially the liver, I like Shishandra is one of the easier ones to kind of build into. And to answer your question, Nana Ata, tinctures are best used on the tongue, but I'm hardcore. Some people put them in water, they dilute them in water or a liquid. I like it. Take it straight to the head, right on the tongue. Some people suggest certain herbs to be used sublingually under the tongue. So it all depends on your preference, and I would defer you to your holistic health practitioner, or some doctors are getting into the tinctures as well. So check with your medical provider on the best way that they suggest that you use it. But I always say, advocate for yourself and try things out for yourself and experiment and see what works best for you. Like I said, I like to use tinctures neat, undiluted, and it depends on what it is for me. Because sometimes with the really, really bitter ones, I like to take them under my tongue instead of on top of my tongue. But with the liver tonic blend that I've been using, the Liver Love blend from Earthly Wellness, and I'm not an affiliate, so I'm not getting paid for this, but I like promoting great products. I use this on my tongue, and literally as soon as it hits my tongue, I start salivating. So it really activates really quickly. And so I know that it is working and it is a really good blend.
Indeed. Yeah, I usually advocate for on the tongue as well. And the reason is it goes back to what I said in the beginning is that the actual registration of the taste actually sets off some of the digestive um, fluids and things like that in the body.
Mm-hmm.
And so, when your body can actually taste it, then it tends to do that better. You know what I mean? So you can get the same kind of an effect or similar effect, from doing it where you don't have to taste it as much or what have you. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing with going under the tongue is that going under the tongue brings it more directly into the bloodstream as opposed to it going through the digestive tract.
Right.
So that's the difference between the two. Sometimes you may want to do that if you want something to activate more quickly, or you're doing something that's like not necessarily digestive related, or if you're not taking something that's too intensely harsh. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Those are factors that I would put out there, just
Yeah.
generally speaking. But yeah, the tinctures are great. I'm a tea person myself, even though I do work with tinctures also, but it's just the way that I came up. I work a lot with the herbal teas and you know being able to steep the herbs if they're leafy herbs, or simmer them lightly if they're like roots and barks and things like that. And traditionally also, and even modern day, I say traditionally meaning that it's been a practice for a long time, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen now. So a lot of times the bitter herbs are combined with other herbs that might be like culinary spices.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll see that because they help to provide a sense of balance for the bitter herbs. And sometimes they help to make the bitter herbs more tolerable taste wise as well.
Yes.
But they also kind of balance out some of the harsher effects that some of the more intensely bitter herbs may have. And in the cases where you might be dealing with children and things of that nature, they can be helpful in that regard too. For tinctures with children, because children can do bitter herb tinctures as well, or bitter
Definitely.
tinctures.
Yes.
Um, but usually it'll be done with the vegetable glycerin, or what was called the glycerite tincture.
Right.
And that make the glycerin kind of has a sweet flavor to it that kind of masks a lot of the bitterness and makes it more tolerable for children, especially in smaller amounts. So those are things that you can kind of look at. So, Sister Precious, you still with us?
I am here. We are having technical issues on this end, but
Oh, okay.
I've been getting bits and pieces trying to jump in. A question I had specifically with you, Ketnu, because you do a lot of work with women's health. Is
Mhm.
there something that bitters that would really assist me? Being a woman, this is going to target these type of issues that women might have. Any type of issues with bitters with health.
More specifically, it would be like the cramping, bloating, because some women deal with a lot of bloating, and a lot of that comes from diet as well. But again, as we mentioned earlier, this works with your digestive system, so it just correlates with that better. With like, if you can't out health a bad diet, but you can supplement. And once you make better choices with your diet, it helps. But these are some things that could help with the digestive system primarily. Also, like I was saying, with women who are dealing with um who may be diabetic or have PCOS, this helps to low balance out the blood sugar levels and like blood sugar cravings. So these are great ways to help balance that out. And a lot of women have these issues and don't know. And especially if you're a woman who constantly craves sweets and things like that, this incorporating more bitters can help you to balance out your blood sugar levels. So it helps with that. Um, and like I said, with any digestive thing, more times than not for women, but just in general, I think everyone should be taking bitters. It was something that traditionally that was done before or after meals. People would do what are called aperitifs or cordials. These were things that were initially done before or after dinner to help digest your meal better. So I feel like now is the time for us to get back to these practical ways of incorporating herbs back into our diets, and in a way that doesn't have to be so formal. But like you said, it could be in a tea, it could be in a tincture, and it doesn't have to be anything that's so elaborate that you feel like, oh man, because most people nowadays, it takes nothing for them to take a pill for a medicine. So why not incorporate something that's going to help you on a daily basis? And so for women who may be dealing with, digestive distress, low blood sugar, cramping, um, you know, those are the main things that I would say bitters are really good for women. And just incorporating that on a daily basis, you will see some initial changes just in appetite suppression. If you're trying to lose weight, bitters help with that as well. So, there is it's a myriad of different options that where it could help women in general. So, but everyone can take it. So, like we said, children, men, it's great for the family. So even if doing it as a morning ritual before everybody leaves to go to work and school, um, I would highly suggest it.
Yeah, I want to add something because one thing that Ketnu mentioned just brought about the thought that bitters, many of the bitter herbs are also very antimicrobial, meaning that they
Mm-hmm.
help to kill off germs or disease causing germs and things of that nature, or they help to repel them. And even in, right now we're encroaching into the colder months in the United States area that we're in Washington D.C. area, and we're encroaching on the colder months. But during the summertime or when people travel to tropical countries, that's also often a recommendation that I give when people are asking about natural alternatives to the malaria pills and things like that, because a lot of times those act as repellent for mosquitoes
Mm-hmm.
and other insects. The highly bitter herbs make it where the body is unattractive to those things, or the blood is unattractive to those things, or not as attractive at the very least. And because of the antimicrobial aspect of it, if something does happen where you get bitten or you get exposed to something that might compromise your body, the bitters can also be a remedy. That has been used, tried and true for thousands of years, and continues to be done to this day. And even when the whole subject of COVID and all of that came up, you know, these were among the things that we were utilizing to help many people to get through it
Mm-hmm.
and to get through it more efficiently without the severity of the symptoms and those type of things like that. In conjunction with some of the other
I
respiratory
remember
stuff like that. Uh huh.
Dr. U, once we were outside and everybody was getting eaten by mosquitoes and you weren't getting bit. It was like all the rest of us was eaten up and you weren't. And I remember you saying that, it's because you don't do a lot of sugars, and I know everybody else in a group, we like really sweet tooth people and do a bunch of sugars. But how long, do you see effects of the bitters? How long does it take for it to actually get into the system? Because I'm sure for you, that's something that's been a practice for years for you. But for somebody just jumping in and looking for, I want this quick answer, these quick results, because these mosquitoes eat me up. But realistically, how long would it take for it to actually get into the system and work?
Well, it depends. It depends on the person. It depends on the results that you're looking for. It's for digestive issues, for example, that can work the same day potentially. You know what I
Mm.
mean? If it's something that's like not a chronic issue, meaning something that's not like a long-standing regular issue that you have. Let's say you have an indigestion issue or something like that, and you take bitters that can help to alleviate it potentially the same day. But if it's like a chronic, long-standing issue or something like that, you might have to take it more for a longer length of time. Maybe several weeks, maybe months, things of that nature. But in order for that to start to rebalance itself. So that has to do with the condition of the body. And the same thing for like, the pest problem and things like that. If you have a lot of sugar, let's say somebody's diabetic where they just have an issue with a lot of standing sugar in the blood, so to speak. That's going to take a longer length of time than somebody like me who might eat sweet stuff on occasion or things like that, but I incorporate bitters or bitter herbs or bitter things periodically. Not to say I do it all the time, but I incorporate it periodically. So if I, am say preparing to travel out the country or something like that, I might take a week with no sweet stuff and just do bitter stuff throughout, you know what I mean? Once or twice a day, something like that, to prepare myself so when I go there, I'm not so susceptible. So something like that, just to kind of give an idea, but it depends on, what the situation is and who the person is and their, what's going on with their body.
And there are no quick fixes with anything when it comes to health. And so, first changing that mindset, but also, starting to eliminate some of the sugars in the diet would be the first thing I would say. And then, like Dr. You said, like some certain herbs um, work better for people more quickly or whatever. But like if you're trying to arrest an upset stomach or, something like that, gas, bloating, things like that. Like I said, it can be instantaneous, but if you're trying to alleviate, mosquito bites, it really is something that you have to start weaning off of the sugar because that's what, because it's the female mosquitoes that bite you. And they're attracted to the sugar in your blood more often. So, incorporating those different things and, especially I would suggest something like a burdock root, in the summertime, because that tends to work really well to repel those mosquitoes and getting into the bloodstream. And then you're talking about it being a blood builder on top of that. So, and that's what the mosquitoes are drawn to, your blood. So that would be the first thing. But just knowing that it takes time, even when you're incorporating these bitters. And that's why again, I suggest starting out slowly and incorporating them daily so it becomes a daily ritual, just like brushing your teeth, incorporating that. So it'll help across the board because when we're talking about food absorption, malabsorption and the lack of nutrients in our foods today. So even being able to extract something from, what you're already ingesting would be beneficial. So incorporating these bitter herbs, be it through a tea, through a tincture in some form or fashion, or a capsule, which isn't as effective with certain breeder herbs, but it works too. But doing that as soon as possible and starting incorporating that, I think would be very beneficial because, um, you know, in using the bitter herbs too, they really help with detoxification.
Mhm.
And we talk about, most people think detox and they think juice cleanse and things like that, but actually ingesting bitter herbs can help with detoxification as well, because it helps the liver and your gallbladder, which are two main organs that help in the detoxification process, um, to utilize that as well. So that's another way to, especially for women, because we tend not to detox as often, or we wait till things get to critical mass before we decide to do a detox. But this is a great way to gently detox yourself, you know, on an ongoing basis, instead of having to do just a one time full on detox. This is a great way to assist your body in detoxifying itself, because your body has to cleanse itself of all the things that you're doing, the things you put on your skin, the things that you are inhaling, your environment, in addition to the things that you're eating. So, we can't stress that enough, that it's so important to incorporate these things, not because it's just the it thing to do, but thinking about the overarching effect that it has on your mind, body, and spirit, and being aware of how that um, can benefit you in ways that you probably wasn't even thinking of.
Yeah, one thing I want to mention too, just to keep it relevant with the time, is that we know that in the United States, Thanksgiving is coming up, the
Yes.
Thanksgiving holiday,
Mm-hmm.
and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this is a time of year where some of the most hospital visits tend to occur
Mm-hmm.
around that time frame, because people overeat, overindulge, and the incidence of heart issues go up, which heart disease is still the number one killer in the United States. And I mentioned earlier that bitter herbs help to stimulate the heart. This is one thing that kind of helps to offset heart disease, and is one of the reasons why there's such a high incidence of heart disease in the United States,
Mm-hmm.
even more so than many other countries, is because we don't get enough of the bitter herbs and the bitter foods in our regular day to day. And so we have an imbalance of sugar and salt, which tends to do the opposite and kind of congest the heart. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
this is one thing that is good to do, to incorporate. Of course, as Ketnu mentioned, you can't out supplement a bad diet. And so, of course, it's best to watch what you're eating, how much you're eating, and what type of things is on your plate and stuff like that if you choose to celebrate this holiday. But at the same time, you can still incorporate these bitter herbs to kind of help to offset some of the damage that's being done. So that combination, if you do have what people call genetic predisposition, which means that certain conditions run in the family. People sometimes have heart conditions that run in the family, high blood pressure, and things of that nature. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not always that you're bound to get it, but a lot of times, and most of the time, is because people or inherit the same eating habits as their family members. And so,
Mm-hmm.
with that and the same blood, the eating habits trigger those things to become adverse health
Right.
conditions. And so, part of it is what we're eating, and part of it is what we're doing to make sure that we're maintaining that balance in our bodies. So, I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that.
Yeah.
And with that said, I do want to segue into talking about the Bitters Challenge that we'll be offering
Uh,
or proposing, which is to get more people to try bitters. We see all of these different types of challenges that are happening around the internet now,
Yeah.
or that have happened, and many of them are quite ridiculous to keep it a buck. We've seen the crate challenge where people are busting their behinds off of crates, and the ice challenge and all this kind of stuff, which are actually harmful. But we want to issue a challenge that's going to be beneficial for your bodies and at the very least, it's going to be humorous as well at the same time. You know, to see maybe some people try some bitter herbs on camera and look at their reactions, but also to be able to take note and maybe even document how you feel after utilizing these bitters, different types of bitter herbs, bitter foods, etc. You know, so it's not necessarily a money making thing for us per se,
No.
but we do offer bitter herbs also. If you're interested in that, you can definitely contact us, leave a comment, message, anything like that, and we can help you to secure that. You know, we have plenty of resources, and even if you're not in our immediate area, we have plenty of resources outside. We and other people that we know ship herbs out and all types of things like that, or we can
Mhm.
refer you, of course, to your local grocery store. But you know, to be able to utilize these herbs, you know, you never know the type of benefit that it can happen, that can happen with you until you actually experience it for yourselves. And so, you know, that's what the Bitters Challenge is about. You know, I want to pass the mic over a little bit and, you know, give everybody else a chance to touch on it. Yes, Nana Ta, definitely,
Yes, yes, that's awesome.
definitely.
Um,
Yeah, just
before
go ahead,
yes,
Sister.
before we go, Kettany, I just want to just chime in on that bitters thing. It would be nice to see everybody do a video and post it to our page of you actually doing the bitters challenge. And I even challenge all of us, the practitioners of the chi, to do a video and post our videos to the page, and others do the same so that we could see what that looks like, and can we get this bitters things trending, because that would be an awesome thing to see happen.
Yeah, most
Yes.
definitely. The most definitely because like we said, it doesn't have to be horrible. And there's, you know, if you want the easy way out, I would definitely say do some ginger. Do a ginger tea. Most people don't know that ginger is a bitter as well.
Mhm.
Um, you know, dandelion tea. There's some really palatable bitter herbs out there. So don't fret and because we've been acclimated to think bitter is nasty. Like my grandmama used to say, bitter is better. And you know, and I'm learning that, you know, and but it's such a beautiful way to bolster up your health. You know, we're in these times where we need to be a lot more health conscious outside of getting it in at the gym, is looking at what we're taking in, not only ingesting with our mouths, but with our eyes and our ears as well. So on the metaphysical side, because I know Master Shep is handling the boards today, but on the metaphysical side, when we look at bitter things, as well as taking in some of those constructive criticisms that may not be as sweet to our ears as we like to hear, those bitters also helps to um, metabolize that within our heart. Like Dr. You said, you know, our heart and our heart chakra. So think about how ingesting bitters across the board is going to help you when you do this bitter challenge. I hate the word challenge because then people think it's hard, but this bitter opportunity for you to challenge yourself to incorporate some of these herbs into your lifestyle, but also think about those bitter things that you've been encompassing in your life that now you can overcome with the help of these herbs and challenging yourself to um, not always welcome the sweetness. We need some of the bitter too to balance things out. And life is about balance and harmony. And with these bitter herbs, they help to promote harmony within your body, especially your digestive system. And as we are approaching flu season and cold season,
Yeah.
incorporating these bitter herbs are going to help you out tremendously. So you won't need the jab and all those other things that they're suggesting to protect yourself from these germs and viruses, because you are now having this armor for your body using nature, which is way more practical than any other supplement that's process out there. So I definitely challenge you. Like I said, I already do bitters daily, so a video would be a cakewalk for me. I may soldier it out and do some gentian just to show you how horrible and nasty it is, but how beneficial it is, because like I said, I've been working with burdock, I've been working with milk thistle, within the tinctures that I've been using, but I have some ginger root that I've been kind of babying that I might make into a tincture for myself, and utilize that for the bitters challenge. So I highly recommend that you try this out, and I promise you, you're going to be so surprised at how much better you're going to feel by just incorporating some of these bitter herbs into your lifestyle.
Indeed.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I will be reaching out to you guys so that I could get my bitter stuff together, because I definitely need to come off of that sugar the way I am addicted to it, and know that it's an addiction. So this is a good time for me to really jumpstart that, before going into the next year.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
awesome.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. One more thing,
You know.
like Dr. You said, for those of you who are celebrating Thanksgiving, Friendsgiving, Sistersgiving, all the iterations that we've, or even if you're just getting together with your family on this day, no judgment. We can make these things what we want them to be. I challenge somebody to be the family's herbalist for the day, if you're not already the family's herbalist, and either make a pot of ginger tea or chamomile tea or ginger shots if you have a juicer, and pass it out to the family before or after the meal, so that way they get their bitters in as well, and educate them on why we're doing this. So if you don't feel like, okay, I can't do the whole 7 days of a bitter challenge or whatever, then I challenge you, this is a sub challenge, to make a bitter for your family to enjoy before or after your Thanksgiving meal, and see how you all feel before or after you take that. And I think that would be a great sub challenge for you to do as well. So, and it's a great way to incorporate that. And it could be a tea, it could be a tincture, or like I said, you can do just juice some ginger and do some ginger shots. It doesn't have to be a whole lot to be effective. So just take that into account as well.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Any last words from you, Doctor? You?
The last words from me would be I'm looking forward to participating in the Bitters Challenge myself, and also, um, the challenge that I would issue, in addition to, doing it on camera to show everybody that we can actually do it. Especially as melanated people, we need to see that more.
Yeah.
But personally, I would say try for 7 days in a row, once a day, twice a day, and see how you feel at the end of that 7 days. See if it makes a difference for you. I also want to give a shout out to Sundial, the company, and what one of my launch pads in learning about herbalism. Sundial Herbal Products out of the Bronx, New York. They provided my first bitters experience way back some 20 something years ago. And, that's really what got me into bitters, even though I didn't like it back then. But, you'd be surprised, like I said earlier. And, the last thing that I'll say is that I've even had people talk with me who actually craved bitters
Mm.
in certain circumstances because their
Mm.
body needed it that much, even though they may not have liked it, but that's something. Just be open to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's responses. Any questions, comments, if you want to share your experiences, please feel free to leave that in the comments or reach out to us.
Wonderful.
So thank you all for joining us today. This has been another episode of the health class you never had. Stay tuned to the Chi, see what's going on, check in on our page and see what we have going on. We love having you here. Have an awesome rest of your day.
Yes, Collective Health Initiative on Instagram at Collective Health Initiative. And Are we still on?